Don't let the size of the icon fool you. The enormity of Irma is intact.
We figured we just write it out. We had plenty of supplies, plenty of rations, and we were okay until the storm surge hit. And that's when things got real.
High 3 West.
High 3 West.
I think everyone in Northeast Florida was shocked by the aftermath of Hurricane Irma.
Boom, boom. The whole building was shaking every time a wave would come crashing into it.
And I'm thinking, this is human drama. This is the reality of a hurricane unfolding right before our eyes.
They may have thought that I was in some way looking for some type of attention by doing this. Nothing could be further from the truth.
It was hard. The hardest part was trying to have to tell our kids. That was hard.
The whole house is vibrating, the glass is shaking.
Hurricane Irma was not just a Florida Keys hurricane, it was a Florida hurricane. You know, it curved north and affected the entire state.
When Irma came in, we anticipated wind, we anticipated flooding, but the models didn't really give us a heads up about how deep the water would be and how much water would come over the banks of the St. Johns River.
So we're in Memorial Park right now. This is along the St. Johns River. This is ground zero for Irma. Downtown Jacksonville was flooded. Why? Because of a unique condition that occurred with Irma.
For those of us who have been in the business such a long time and have seen storms roll through, to say that Irma surprised us, surprised me, that really says a lot.
I want you to see this. We're right here at Memorial Park. This is Lancaster Terrace, right off of Riverside Avenue. And look at this. We are up in knee-deep water. The winds are very gusty, and the camera guy, Randy, is having a hard time standing here as well.
And right now, we are in the Riverview neighborhood. Now, if you look over to my left, that is the Trout River, and it is flooding majorly.
I mean, you are talking about the St. Johns River overflowing its banks, expanding its banks, and growing to a size that literally consumed parts of Jacksonville and Riverside, San Marco, and downtown. And I don't think that that's something that everybody or anybody had ever imagined.
In the distance, there's that truck we were talking about, caught on Bay Street in the underpass under the Main Street Bridge. It was submerged. It can't get out. So this is the deepest part of downtown right now.
It was like nothing I'd ever seen before in downtown. It was almost post-apocalyptic to me. As I look at this, I'm like, I can't believe this is downtown Jacksonville right now. I thought of Houston when they had that hurricane weeks before. I didn't know how bad it was going to get because I see just large buildings in downtown. The water is just coming toward their front door.
For Angel Marquez and his wife, who had been enjoying their new waterfront apartment for only a couple of months, Hurricane Irma brought the unexpected.
We knew storm surge was gonna be an issue, but we weren't expecting 10 plus feet of storm surge. Neither were the forecasters or the meteorologists, because leading up to the storm, they were, expecting around 6 feet, which would have brought it just, over the seawall there, but it was much higher than that.
Oh no, there's the poor Doc.
At peak, when the winds were really howling, these trees outside the windows were really moving, starting to concern me, but then the waves crashing against the building felt like a dump truck backing into the building over and over, just boom, boom. Like the whole building was shaking every time a wave would come crashing into it.
Those people, they got the windows busted out. Everybody on the first floor over there. Whoa!
And then you look out the window here and see some of the other units on the bottom really taking a pounding. It was scary.
During the storm, Angel and his wife didn't stay inside. At one point, his wife braved the flood waters to rescue a cat.
Okay, I think they got the cat. They got the cat.
Other times, he went live on Facebook.
I put my phone in a Ziploc bag and I grabbed my curtain rod from the shower and used it as a walking stick through the water out to the large tree that's out here by the pier. Right at peak, it was pretty intense. Walked back in, did a few more shots from the windows and from the porch, but it was howling, the waves, it was quite impactful.
Angel Marquez and his wife are thankful they stayed safe, but still think about those who lost everything to the storm.
Heartbreaking, just in awe, just in shock. I'm thankful that we still have our belongings, but so many people, and it just to know that it's happened, but to look out your window and watch it happen. Just so many people just lost everything. Everything. It's gone. It's in the river.
I think the flooding caught people off guard, even though we had that as one of our threat factors. Every time we said, here's what you can expect. Flooding was number one, flooding was number one. But it was the way that we flooded.
I've never seen the water that high. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. That's the park where Jim was. Wow.
Meteorologist Richard Nunn had a friend with a military surplus vehicle. They hit the flooded streets of Riverside, doing whatever they could to help people who were in flooded homes.
Let me use both hands here. Hold on one second, Jed. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
There's no way you could take them.
Absolutely, we can. Yep. That's why we're here. Yeah, we can take you.
We helped a family that had evacuated to Clay County, which had its own flooding from Black Creek, and they hadn't seen their house in 3 days. I had never seen it to that extent, and I wasn't prepared for what we ended up seeing.
Neither had city officials, who warned that floodwaters could persist for days.
To be clear, this is not a one-day event. This is probably a week-long event. We're going to have to see on a day-to-day basis.
So why did the St. Johns River experience historic flooding? St. Johns Riverkeeper Lisa Reineman believes it's a long-term issue that will affect Jacksonville again.
Historically in the St. Johns River, there was a series of sandbars. Those sandbars protected the estuary. It protected the river from too much salt water coming in, too much water coming in. But in a quest to deepen the river, we've removed those natural protections. And so every single day there's 15 billion gallons of salt water coming in. And by removing and straightening and deepening, we're giving that ocean water more tidal force coming into our neighborhoods, into downtown.
The more immediate issue last fall was a confluence of issues, a nor'easter just days before Hurricane Irma that dumped inches of rain, the direction from which the hurricane approached Northeast Florida, and even the direction of the flow of the St. Johns River.
Remember, the St. Johns River flows northward. Irma's track was to the west, and when that westerly track allowed for a southerly wind to grab all that water from Palatka through Bostwick all the way past the Buckman Bridge, it shoved it right into this big bowl here. And the downtown flooded like it hadn't since 1846.
John Gahn has been a meteorologist in Jacksonville for over 30 years, but even he was overwhelmed by what he saw during Irma and by the realization of how much worse things could have been if the hurricane had taken a different track.
historical statistics, and I know it's been tragic. I'm not sure about my own home, but I got to tell you, we got lucky. We got real lucky. It could have been an East Coast storm. You know, the track 2 days earlier was right up the coast, and I cannot I cannot even tell you what we would be dealing with then, because it would have been too hard to explain, just way too difficult.
Next, why this man decided to face Hurricane Irma on a boat in the Keys.
Key West is an amazing place. It's unlike any other that I've been to. Everyone really cares about this place, and there's a reason for that. It's because people come here to be free and be happy.
A lot of people come to the Florida Keys, whether to live or to visit, because it's a paradise of some sorts, you know. But paradise does have a price, and that is the hurricane threat.
September 9th, 2017, Hurricane Irma approached the Florida Keys. There was a lot of reason to worry. Days earlier, Irma had raked the Caribbean, dealing a devastating blow. In Barbuda, Irma rolled over the island as a Category 5 storm with maximum wind speeds of over 175 miles per hour.
It's safer to say here that with just in the next couple of hours, it's expected about 6 a.m. here to move into Key West as a Category 4 hurricane.
For Key West resident Dustin Greer, the hurricane was especially troubling. He owned boats, making his living on the water.
Hi!
Despite orders to evacuate the Keys, he and his business partner made a decision many people called crazy.
Over the course of the events that happened leading up to the storm, it really became quite apparent to us that we needed to stay. We needed to stay. We needed to take care of as much of what we had as we could. We had several boats. It wasn't just the one boat. That was our business, we were renting these boats out. So, you know, we would have had to either tie all the boats together and drag them somewhere else, which was an option, but we weren't that sure of what that would be like.
Once the decision was made, Greer picked up the phone and placed a call to a TV station 500 miles away in Jacksonville.
Richard Nunn, being a buddy of mine from way back, I give him a call. I said, hey, you know, I'm sure that you guys are wondering what's going on down here. And, you know, I have cell service right now. I'd be happy to give you an on-air interview and give you, you know, updates as you see fit.
Soon, Greer's story was on the air on Channel 4.
People call me crazy, that's fine. Not the worst I've ever been called. But, you know, I feel like this story needs to be told.
Yeah, Dustin riding out the storm in a boat in a harbor in Key West. I mean, what else can you say? That it was crazy. You know, when he was letting me know that he was doing it, we put him on air and had him tell his story, and I hoped at the time that we were going to be able to follow up with him and get the play-by-play on just how wild that e-ticket ride was.
Greer and his business partner started going live on Facebook. Their videos went viral.
She's a 70-foot steel hull vessel. She was built in 1976 in Holland. And she's an old girl. She's got her quirks, but she is a solid vessel, and we knew it. We knew that if we point her in the right direction, she would make it through this storm.
Things are looking pretty good on our boat too.
But as soon as she really started coming in, we locked down. We had prepared, we had provisioned, we had plenty of water and all the supplies that we needed, and we pretty much locked down in the boat.
Yeah, keep in mind, guys, we're not out in open water here. It doesn't get any more protected than this. I can only imagine what my friends are going through who stayed out in the anchorage. I hope to God they're still out there.
As the storm progressed, the winds got more and more intense. There was banging of boats, metal sounds, and crunching. There was a 40-foot sailboat that was maybe 15 feet just off the bow of our boat that sank, that was also tied to the dock. Sound was deafening at points. There were moments where I believe I heard a tornado. It was that, you know, distinctive, very distinctive sound, a diesel engine or a grinding noise.
We've never done this before. This is the first time.
That was probably, if I had to say the scariest part, that would have been it.
Irma made landfall just 30 miles away from Key West. Gusts were over 130 miles an hour.
The thing about Irma's power is that, if I recall correctly, Irma went east of Key West, which meant that his location was on the weak side of the hurricane. He's lucky that that played out, because had the power side come through, I don't think the outcome would have been the same.
The birds are back, looking for some food. I'm sure they're hungry.
For days on end, everybody from Mary Bear to John, myself, I mean, we were all getting email asking, hey, what happened to the boat guy? What happened to the crazy boat guy? Which he's now come to be known, just like me and everybody else. We wanted to know the story of what it was like to go 24 hours on a sailboat in the middle of a major hurricane.
Well, I would say that under any circumstances, absolutely, I would not condone staying in a place where it's, you know, it's a mandatory evacuation. If you have family, you and kids, and you know, even yourself, and you know, if you're unsure of your own abilities to deal with, you know, those things that could come at you, then get out. Absolutely get out. I'm pretty ecstatic that I made a good decision and everything, but that doesn't mean that it didn't get tricky. It did get tricky, you know? And, you know, those types of thoughts go through your mind, even whenever you're pretty confident that you made the good decision. You still think about your friends and your family, you know, and if things did happen to go wrong.
Next, Hurricane Irma and the lives lost.
She was under him when they found him. They thought it was just him at first, but they were both there.
Guys, it is getting windier and windier out here. Last time I spoke with you, I was holding on.
Misery in hurricanes is just it's the length of it, it's the exhaustion of it, it's the amount of wetness that you're dealing with.
You see reporters and, you know, you see the wind blowing them across the street. It might look fun on YouTube, but being out there in it, I don't think anybody really wants to be in those conditions.
People are cautioned to stay indoors during a hurricane. But along with first responders, news crews are out on the front lines of a storm. And sometimes what happens to them also makes the news.
It was early in the morning. The first thing that we were told to do is, hey, go out towards the north side area. There's been some flooding, and it was near an elementary school.
Reporter Crystal Moyer and photojournalist John Finley were covering the rising floodwaters in Jacksonville.
I'm about 5'1", so if that gives you any indication, more than a foot deep of water here along Bysden Road.
And you could see the stop sign, and you could see the water was almost up to the stop sign where the red part is. So we could tell this was a good place for us to stop and do some traffic hits, just letting people in the neighborhood know not to drive through that area.
Soon, John hears an unusual sound.
I think it was after our first hit. I hear in the distance like a little help, help, but it was so light and the wind was blowing so hard that I couldn't tell. You know, I wasn't sure if it was something real or if I was just hearing trees blow a certain way.
I remember John saying, oh, I think I hear something. I think I hear someone screaming for help. And I was like, no, I don't hear anything. And he's like, no, I really think I hear something.
Then Crystal hears something too.
We're gonna get off right now because we were hearing earlier some people screaming from across the street. I don't know if they're asking for help. So we're gonna go check that out, and then we will check back in with you guys. Reporting live on the north side, Crystal Moyer, Channel 4, the local station.
Yeah, Crystal, go help them, absolutely. And again, if anybody needs anything, please make sure you call 911.
Just in the distance, you could see these people in this big lake of water that was really in the middle of the street. And the guy was, trying to wade through and push on through. And I think his girlfriend was back in the car.
I could look at Crystal, and she was ready to go. But I said, I can't let her go out in this. I'm not the best swimmer in the world, but I couldn't let anything happen to her because that hurt me too much if something did.
I was freaking out because he was not a strong swimmer, didn't tell me till after the fact, but he disappeared into the darkness.
Back in the studio, everyone was worried about what was going on with Crystal and John.
I'm just thinking, you know what, I hope this doesn't have a negative outcome. And I hope that John is smart enough in approaching the car and getting this woman to safety, that he doesn't put his own life in peril.
I have this huge 30-pound camera on my shoulder, really short, don't really know how to work it, but I wanted to make sure that people back at the studio knew what was going on.
Instead of Jonathan,
Mark,
we're going to give
excuse
it
me,
right back
I hate to
you.
interrupt you. We want to go back
for
to
it.
San Mateo right now, where Crystal Moyer is, because there's a rescue that's happening. Crystal.
Hey, I'm so sorry I'm out of breath, guys. My cameraman, John Finley, we heard something during our live shot near Bison Road. Somebody was screaming, help. We were talking about how deep those waters are. I know you can't see much, but those flashing lights right there, somebody was stuck in their vehicle. So some guy came running to us, water up to his waist, saying, my girlfriend, she's stuck in her car. We need help. And you know, John, he just threw me the camera and ran out there. Oh my gosh.
Crystal, I want you to
Yes?
take a breath. Just take a deep breath, okay? Take a second and calm down. We're going to recap for viewers. No. This is live TV, and you are in the middle of a very tense and emotional situation. Okay, you see them walking to you?
I see the gentleman that was in the car walking towards me.
And how about John?
Excuse me, sir, are you okay? Where's my photographer, John? Is he helping the female?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what happened?
While Crystal was interviewing the man, John was trying to help the man's girlfriend, but worried whether he could even get to her.
I can't see, but as I'm walking, the water keeps getting higher and higher and higher, and I'm like, should I keep going? Well, I'm halfway out here, might as well. And eventually, it gets probably around my chest level. And at that point, I'm close enough to see the girl, and she's huddled up on top of the car. I can actually physically see her shaking. And I take a step, and it dips down. And so I said, sorry, man, I can't go any further because I'm not gonna go underwater trying to save her. I don't know how much deeper it gets. And I took a step back, and I went to the right a little bit. And to the right, it was a tad bit higher. So I said, well, I can try to go in this way. It's a little bit higher. And I took a couple steps, and I was able to get to her. I've never seen anything like this. She was wet, she was cold, she was shaking, she was shivering, but she couldn't speak. She tried, but nothing would come out. It was just inaudible murmurs. And luckily, she was a small girl, so I could just pick her up and carry her. And I turned to basically hand her to him, but the guy was nowhere to be found.
The man was on live TV explaining to Crystal why he was out in the storm.
Oh my gosh, so what made you guys want to get on the road right now?
I had to go pick her up.
Oh, you were trying to pick her up?
Yeah, and then we ran out of gas earlier, and we had to get somebody to come get us some gas when we keep on the way back.
So John is helping that woman as well as the other guy. Is she okay?
Yeah, she's all right.
Back at the station, concern turned to disbelief that people would even be out in the middle of a hurricane.
Look, I'm just trying to hold myself back here. We don't know what the whole story is, okay? Don't presume to. We do know it is not prudent to be out on the road right now. I guess you could call it my dad instinct kicked in, because I knew that our crew was going to be in harm's way, and if I remember correctly, John's not exactly a strong swimmer, so he put his safety aside to make sure that he could get to whomever he had to.
It was a really scary situation because it was just the two of us, and you know, when you're working with a photographer during the storm, you're like family, and I felt like he was my older brother. He said, you stay, I'm gonna go take care of this situation, but you make sure you're safe.
Crystal and John never did find out who the couple was that they met in the middle of Hurricane Irma.
So after this whole ordeal, as I'm reporting what happened and kind of rethinking about the whole situation, you know, I got really emotional.
Basically, Bruce and Jen, and sorry if I get a little bit emotional because we've just been through some crazy stuff out here.
It was tough for me to tell people, this is why we're doing this. We're out here safely trying to show you what's going on outside so that you don't have to be out there. If John and I were not out there, I don't know what would have happened. I just want people to know that it's not fun and games. It's not fun when you're stranded, when your car's submerged, when you crash. You don't know what's in the water. It could have been alligators and snakes that John may have never made it back. We were really lucky, and I think that's why it's so important for people to take this seriously.
Next,
stay away. Do not get in the waters. It could be your life.
how this woman barely escaped dying because of Hurricane Irma.
There is nothing more frustrating than when we're sitting there explaining what the police have said, what emergency crews have said. We're conveying their messages to people. Don't go into the standing water. You don't know what's under there, what sharp objects, what animals might be in that water.
Get it up! Get it up!
Oh! We're telling people this again and again and again, and then to go and see people out walking in floodwaters waist deep, some of them, when they don't need to be there. You worry for those folks, and you know that that's a potential accident and emergency waiting to happen.
I haven't hit wires yet. That one zapped me a little bit.
One of the most dangerous times of a hurricane is after a hurricane. In Florida, there were 4 direct deaths from Irma. For example, Marty Woods, who died from drowning. But there were also 80 indirect deaths caused by things such as falls and heart attacks during cleanup.
Hey guys, we are out here and the water's gone down a little. The only way I can know that is on Bay Street. This truck, about 45 minutes ago, I didn't know who it belonged to.
Reporter Scott Johnson saw what he considered extremely dangerous behavior covering the flooding in downtown Jacksonville.
So we get down there and there's guys who are turning this into a water park, I guess. So you see a bunch of guys stripped to just their shorts. They bicycle in as far as they can get, and then they climb onto the top of this huge box truck, and then they start just doing cannonballs into the water. I'm just thinking, you guys are gonna kill yourselves.
Firefighters shake their heads when they hear things like this, but they're not surprised.
You are not considering your own safety. Consider the safety of me and my fellow responders, because we are going to risk ourselves and others in our business to come and get you. We will not fail to do that.
I didn't know what was in this water. It was overflow of the river, and they're out. I mean, I'm in wading boots in it up to my thighs. They're out just in nothing, like it's the beach, like it's the river, having a good time.
Contrast that with the bad time Hurricane Irma brought this woman.
Stay away. Do not get in the waters. It could be your life.
Irma almost killed her after she helped some friends whose home had flooded.
That morning we all got there and got all our tools out. We all wore gloves, masks, tried to protect as much as possible. But by the time we did the elderly couple's home, it had sat for over a week, so it was really had a bad stench. There was mold, that type of stuff. So we went in, tore everything out, the carpets, the walls. Basically the roof and the whole of the house was left. Down to the studs. So that was the 24th, September 24th. So on the 25th, I believe, is when I ended up going to the hospital.
We're literally like stomach deep.
Experts know just how dangerous floodwaters can be. The trouble is, many people don't.
There are 300 miles of river, and so not only were there other millions of gallons of raw sewage going into our waterways, there's Superfund sites, there's toxins, there's pesticides, there's chemicals from people's garages. This turns into a toxic soup, and there's no one agency that's regulating that from a holistic perspective.
But all I could think about were the little kids, the young people we saw in this water. I mean, I know my kids, every time I turn around, they've got a new cut or a bruise or something from just playing. That nasty water, that contaminated water gets into that, you're talking about a trip to the emergency room.
And that's exactly where Kiera Barnard had to go, to the ER, just hours after helping clean the elderly couple's house.
Across my stomach, it's where I was actually lifting bags, picking bags up, so I guess they got against me, and it was red, stinging, burning type sensation. So I thought, well, maybe I had a skin irritation for touching something, you know, while I was cleaning up. So I took a shower, you know, put like some hydrocortisone cream on it, that type of stuff. And then that proceeded to get worse. So about an hour later, I started vomiting. And then I told my daughter, we've got to go. And I went to the emergency room.
Bernard was soon diagnosed with necrotizing fasciitis, or flesh-eating bacteria.
Your skin deteriorates and rots, so they have to get it out immediately, and any surrounding tissue so it isn't reoccurring. So they went in and cut me basically from hip to hip, and I remember my mom telling me what the doctor had told her. He told her there was a 50-50 chance that I would make it through the surgery.
I think I was shocked most right after the storm passed, even during the storm, that there were so many people coming outside. They wanted to see what was going on. They wanted to get into the floods. I saw people bring out their four-wheelers and they were just driving through it, bringing out their boats, and I was shocked.
I'm highly concerned when I see people out in these floodwaters. Not only is it very turbulent, I mean, it can quickly wash you over a bank, but also there's so many toxins, pesticides. You should definitely take caution and try not to engage these storm waters.
I cannot stress enough, it's your life. It's life or death. It can be that serious.
Yep, little one.
Oh, I see them.
And that's why we shouldn't be in. We've made it this far. We can play Russian roulette. See.
All we can do is give the information and warn people and continue to provide them with the emergency information. And if it's not heeded, then I guess that's another story we'll be covering.
Next.
Well, I mean, you just see the water coming up, 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 you know, and then like I say, pretty soon, you know, the water was up to here.
We could actually break all-time records there.
When Hurricane Irma hit in September of 2017, the storm brought devastating winds and rain, and the combination caused record-breaking flooding, not just in large rivers, but smaller bodies of water too.
Just slowly started creeping up, and woke up this morning about 5 o'clock, and it was pretty high.
Black Creek got crushed before Irma really got going because we had a nor'easter. 3 days of heavy rain, 10 inches of rain.
Residents along Black Creek in Clay County are used to flooding, but not like the flooding they got from Irma.
Devastation. Really unbelievable devastation. Yeah, so I kind of just go down to the dock and try not to look at it, you know, but it is what it is.
Sharon Frisbee's life is still upended months after Irma hit.
That's our creek house, and that's what the storm done. It's kind of hung up there now, and we kind of need a crane to remove it, and we don't have, you know, it's not a priority there to spend those thousands of dollars on a crane right now. So it's just sitting, waiting.
As the hurricane approached, Frisbee was apprehensive, as most people were, but considering her house was nearly 100 yards from what is normally a tranquil creek, she didn't expect floodwaters to reach her home.
And I was really more concerned about wind and a tree coming in my roof, getting me because of the hurricane, you know, than I was of flooding. I just, you know, could not dream that it would come into my house. Just couldn't dream that. It was just so unreal how fast it happened. I mean, we were just totally beside ourselves. We really were. I don't know of anything that could be worse other than a fire. I think seeing these people in fires, you know, I really think that would be a lot worse.
Many people in Frisbee's neighborhood became trapped and had to be rescued. Eventually, she and her family had to be helped out too.
But out of all the devastations, I was blessed with people that come to help afterwards. It was amazing. People I didn't know, you know, came and helped. It was a very humbling experience, you know. Very humbling experience, definitely, you know. Hopefully this will never happen in my lifetime again, you know, the perfect storm.
The water was all the way up to the roof.
On another prong of Black Creek, 83-year-old Carolyn Hankemeyer told her family to evacuate without her.
And because I already told them to leave me because I'd been in so many floods, I thought I knew better than the Lord, I guess, which was a big mistake.
That decision almost killed her.
Well, I mean, you just see the water coming up, 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 you know, and then like I say, pretty soon, you know, the water was up to here. When the water moves, it is so fast and unbelievable. It's like rapids. I was praying and asked the Lord to please, you know, help us, because it was so difficult to see all of your belongings and everything that you've worked for and your whole life, and your records and all your pictures and your personal things, and just all going.
After hours of standing in floodwaters, a rescuer finally arrived.
But on the way out, I grabbed my purse and I opened the laundry room door and one moo-moo, and that's all I had when I left. That's it. No shoes. Well, I'm 83 now, so I'm praying there won't be another one in my lifetime. But, you know, only Lord knows that. So I'm just thankful to be alive.
For the men and women who were on the front lines rescuing people during the storm, Irma's power caught even them by surprise.
I've been with Jacksonville Fire Rescue since 1988, and I've never seen water come up to the level that it had on those days.
People seemed to hunker down for the night during the actual storm and the wind event. It was the next day when it had subsided and the water came up that the calls really started to hit. But we knew at that point that we were going to have a problem with massive flooding throughout the city.
Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy saw the devastation firsthand.
Then I look down the road towards downtown on Santa Marco Boulevard, and it's literally covered in water. It looks like a lake. And I see people are trying to exit their homes, but they can't get out. Their canoes that are coming and their kayaks that are coming, literally one by one, trying to help people evacuate and make it to some sense of dry land. I have a couple that walks up to me and I'm asking them where they're from and exactly what are they doing in the area, and they say, our house is gone. The first floor of their house has flooded out.
We don't have a home to go back to, and but you know, all that can be replaced. It's lives that you cannot replace. So we're not real happy about it, but we'll manage.
We've seen it flood there before, and we've all kind of shrugged our shoulders and said, here it goes again. It flooded to the point where you couldn't get in and couldn't get out.
Everybody started working that day about daylight, and they didn't stop until sometime after dark, and we had moved several hundred people. I mean, I've heard numbers from 250 to 300 or 400, a large number of people.
We make plans for hurricane season, and that's what I would encourage the people, the citizens of Jacksonville, is make your plan for hurricane season. Identify where you're going to go. Identify how you're going to get there. Don't wait till the last minute. When they say it's coming, get out.
I would urge citizens to take into account when they're asked to evacuate, you're saving yourself, but you're also potentially saving a first responder from taking a risk that is undue and unnecessary.
I'm proud of the men and women of the JFRD. I'm proud to be one of their leaders and be affiliated with them. And since I have this forum, I'm going to say thanks for everything y'all did. And hopefully this year's a little bit less of a challenge than last year was.
Next.
It's the insurance industry. I don't think there's consumers are the winners in any of this.
This woman is still waiting for reimbursement from her insurance company. The steps you can take if your home is damaged in the next hurricane.
Every storm is different and every storm has different results, absolutely, and you got to stay alert because storms slow down and then they turn from wind makers to rain makers, and the flooding is not necessarily along the St. Johns River or at the beach, it's your backyard.
Flooding can be very localized, but not in the case of Hurricane Irma, which caused widespread flooding across Florida. Thousands filed claims with their insurance companies. One of them was Dr. Georgia Genikakos, who came home to a dramatic scene after the storm.
Our boat had ended up right in front of the patio. You couldn't really even see the pool because there was so much debris. The dock was gone. The fence along the property line was gone, and there was just waves of the St. John River just rolling in.
It took her insurance company 4 months to release any money, but the money didn't go to her.
Because we have a mortgage on our home, the insurance reimbursements came into our name and our mortgage company. So the mortgage company is holding on to these insurance claims.
For months, the mortgage company would not release any of the money. Giannakakos and her family had to pay out of their own savings to start cleaning up.
It's been over $100,000 before we started seeing any reasonable payments back from the insurance company. And the money's there. It's not like there's the money to rebuild and get on with your life is not there. They're just holding on to it. I don't understand how that's legal. I really don't.
Some insurance companies, yes, have been doing the right thing, but some of them are not.
Nicole Von Rowan helps people recover insurance money after hurricane damage.
One of the most frequent excuses that we see is that, well, your roof was old, even though they've insured the roof in its condition and the insureds have been paying premiums. They find that now apparently the roof is old, so the insurance company is refusing to extend coverage for the loss. The other issue that we're having is insurance companies not paying enough money to make the repairs. So we'll have a house where a tree has fallen on the roof, destroyed the house, destroyed the inside, and unfortunately the insurance company is not paying them enough money to rebuild.
Von Rowan believes some insurers are just hoping you'll go away.
It doesn't hurt you to go and consult with an attorney, have them look at the policy, have them look at all the paperwork that you have, and let them tell you whether you have a claim or not. It's free, it's no cost.
This has been an eye-opening experience, and it's been very disheartening because I know there's people in much worse situations than us. But the insurance companies and mortgage companies actually who have not in any way helped people at all.
Bonnie Arnold's home was destroyed by Hurricane Irma.
The water came up to the windowsill of the house on all 4 sides. And it would, ebb and flow. So with each tide, it would come up to that and go through the house and then come down and back up and so forth.
She had evacuated. When she came home, she had a hard time dealing with what the storm had done to her home.
I will tell you, when I came back, got out of the car and walked up, I began crying and apologizing to the house that I left it. As if I could have stayed and say, it's interesting how you react to loss. And I felt responsible, I was the homeowner, what had I done?
Arnold lives close to the St. Johns River. She's one of dozens in her neighborhood who are allowing the government to buy their homes at pre-storm prices. Then they'll be destroyed, the land used as a watershed for the river. Some experts believe it's inevitable that more neighborhoods will be flooded in the future.
In Jacksonville, we've had our head in the sands a bit about trying to figure out how much at risk we are. We know based on gauges that the water in the river is rising. In downtown Jacksonville, since the 70s, the average tide has increased 5 inches. And while that doesn't sound like a whole lot, when you're in a community that's so extremely flat, with older neighborhoods, with old infrastructure, we're extremely vulnerable.
St. Johns Riverkeeper Lisa Reineman also believes dredging the St. Johns River in order to allow bigger ships to come into Jacksonville will have terrible and lasting repercussions on local neighborhoods.
And in addition to sea level rise, we have deepened, widened, straightened the St. Johns River, removed all the barriers to the Atlantic Ocean. So as we've created a faster channel for the ships to come to Jacksport, we've actually created an open door in a faster channel, inviting the Atlantic Ocean to our downtown.
We know it can happen. Irma shows us that it can happen here, and that we are continuing to dredge the river, and we know that that will cause more saltwater intrusion further in. That was part of the Corps of Engineers report. I think it behooves us to really look at enhanced mitigation strategies associated with that. I think there's a greater awareness to what the potential issues are.
Hurricane Irma left an indelible impression.
And just watching the fury of the storm in the middle of the night and seeing the water rise. And it was just, wow, there I am seeing the fury of Irma, and it was so intense.
But every year, there's always the possibility another hurricane will leave a new, painful, lasting memory. Hopefully this year won't be that year.
We make plans for hurricane season, and that's what I would encourage the people, the citizens of Jacksonville, is make your plan for hurricane season. Identify where you're going to go. Identify how you're going to get there. Don't wait till the last minute. When they say it's coming, get out.
And knowing how Florida kind of dangles out like the pinky toe in a darkened room, and somewhere you know there's a hutch or a stool or something that you're going to catch it on. With so many storms likely for the 2018 season, I'm hoping that we're not that pinky toe and we don't get stubbed again.
You know, you hear the words hurricane season come up again, and you just automatically get exhausted. Just the mere thought of another season, especially after Hurricane Matthew and after Hurricane Irma, such major events. But the good feeling that I have in the midst of all those thoughts is this community that we have. And seeing everyone just pitch in and help each other and save each other when they can, for me, it does my heart good to know that we're not alone.